Hi everyone, this is Holly from Hot Humble Pie. Welcome to my Christmas series. For this project, you're going to need a Dollar Tree muffin pan, and I'm going to start by removing all of the paper off of here. I'm going to use the color Pewter Gray from Apple Barrel Paint, and I'm going to take a little sponge brush and just start tapping it all over this muffin pan. We're going to try and make this guy look vintage and old. Right now he's looking too shiny and too dollar store-ish. So we're going to cover it with gray paint. That will take away the shine. That will also give it some natural variations in shades and hues, and we will start the aging process here. So I'm going to cover the whole pan, and then next I'm going to use the color Nutmeg, and I'm going to start adding some faux rust. That's also an Apple Barrel Paint, and it's my favorite color for faux rust when I'm not in the mood to use cinnamon. You can use cinnamon if you want to, but I can get the look close enough where it looks just as authentic and good without the cinnamon, and I don't always want to deal with the mess because sometimes cinnamon chips off or falls off and takes the paint with it. So totally your preference here. I'm just going to use paint. And next I'm using the color black. I'm actually using the color ink from Waverly Chalk Paint, but black will be just fine because this color is basically just black. And I'm just tapping it on here and there to add to the distressing look. For $1.78, I ordered 50 scrapbook stickers from Temu that were vintage, and that's what I'm using right now. I just chose some out of that pack, and I am taking some antique wax and just distressing the edges of these stickers so that they also look like they've been around for a while. But first we have to let them dry. So I'm going to take the color Plaster from Waverly Chalk Paint, and I'm just going to do a cloud-like little padding here to brighten up the bottom of my muffin pans, because when I put the vintage imagery down inside them, they disappeared. They're just too dark, and the pictures are so beautiful. I mean, they're straight up Oliver Twist type Christmas scenery and imagery. So I didn't want them to get lost in the darkness, and that made it so that I had to lighten it up a little bit with the lighter paint. But if you don't have this vintage imagery, you can go again to clip art, put in vintage Christmas, and it will give you lots of choices. You can also put vintage little gingerbread faces in there or snowman faces in there. There's lots of options, so use your imagination and have fun. Next, I'm taking the Dollar Tree black wire. It's very thin, so I doubled up on it. You'll see 2 loops there, but I'm going to use that as the hanger for my little muffin tin. I'm just putting it through the hole on the top and tying it, and that's it. Makes a really sturdy hanger. Then we're going to go ahead and add a bow and some embellishment. Now for this bow, I kind of made it like a 2-loop or 4-loop bow, but a messy bow at the same time because I wanted a bunch of different ribbon in there, so I included it in there to show you how I did it. I just glued loops together and then tied them all together so that I can puff them up like a floral bow, because this specific bow, I kind of made it up and it's not in my bow video. So I hope you understood it. If you don't, leave me a question down below in the comments and I will try to answer the best I can, but I'm leaving it in here so you can see what I did. I tied the center together with some more of the Dollar Tree black wire because it was very thick in the center and I chose not to make a cut or slit. So I just pulled it really tight with the wire and then attached it using the wire to the top of the wire hanger that I put on. Then I'm going to use some masking tape to attach some pine together and glue that in the back. And then we're going to get some more delicate pine. This is actually a fern. I think it was originally from Walmart. And it looks like, I don't know, I think it goes good with Christmas. It has that feel, so it passes. And I added that. And now I'm taking some more of this green trim that I got from Temu. I wanted to add that at the top. I added some berries. And as you can see, I added that distressed bell. That was also a great deal on Temu. I got those pre-distressed. They're already done. They come ready to go. And I think maybe a little bit more than the Dollar Tree, but it was a good deal. I'm adding some of the Dollar Tree lace at the bottom, and lastly here is some of the baker's twine. Now I do step back and look at this and decide that I feel like it's a little lopsided with the greenery there from the vine, like the vine ribbon or trim, I'm not sure what to call that, on the right hand side. So I end up adding another loop to the other side to even it out and give it some symmetry, and we're all done. And I absolutely love this. You do need to spray it with clear varnish because it will chip off. I used acrylic paint, but I think it came up gorgeous. For this next project, I'm using this metal bucket that I got at the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to be using folk art chalk paint. This chalk paint is more akin to like a primer in my homemade chalk paint, and since I didn't have any primer, this is one that will definitely stick to shiny surfaces. It's meant more for furniture, and I just gave it one coat. Now I'm using a vintage picture of Santa here that I got from Temu, but you can find these all day online, and I will leave a link down below in my description box so that you can choose a vintage Santa as well if you wish to recreate this craft. I am taking my glue stick from the Dollar Tree and generously applying it on the back of this image and then applying it to the metal pan. Now I'm about to show you a really fast, simple way to get a birch wood look. I don't want it entirely exactly like birchwood, but this is just the essence of birchwood. I've already shown you how to do birchwood in a separate video. It was basically free. And then the next way I showed you, if you remember, for those of you that watch my channel, was during an Easter video, and I showed you how to do it with glue and napkins really fast as well. It just involves a little spraying of the water. So this is what you're doing here. I took the color Territorial Beige in Apple Barrel paint, and I just put it on. Well, you saw it's not really dry brushing, it's kind of a light soft paint brushing, and I'm taking a baby wipe now and I'm deliberately wiping off the center of any bigger marks, and see how it's leaving like those little borders, I guess, where the center's clear. Now you see me switching my baby wipe around too. You don't want this, you have to be careful not to make this look like a stain. You're not trying to blur this, although a little bit's okay because that also makes it look like birchwood. So it's definitely a balance. You kind of have to watch what you're doing, but you're just switching your wipe around and rubbing off the center of those marks, and voila, you have a very fast faux birchwood looking type pan. It's not identical, but it definitely gives the feeling. So next I'm taking the color Nutmeg and this little sponge here, and I'm just tapping it on to kind of antique and distress this pan a little bit more. And lastly, I'm going to take the color Black and do the same exact thing. We're just distressing the edges there to make it look dark. And we're all done. Came up absolutely beautiful. Next, I'm taking this foam that I keep from packages. I always recommend that you save your foam if you get them in packages. And I heard this called Celsior grass or something like that on another channel. They pulled it out. It's like a wispier form of moss here. I love it. I ordered it on Amazon. I will leave the link down below in my description box. And we're taking some Dollar Tree skewers now, and we're staining them with the color Burnt Umber. And I'm just using the side of that little sponge brush to do it. It's super easy. And look what else the foam does. That's the foam, by the way, that's soft like a pool noodle. It's not the kind that crumbles. And you can use it to dry those by staking them inside. Now I'm using Cinnamon, super old trick for getting faux rust. I'm doing it more for like air fresheners. I want it to be scented in my house for Christmas, so I'm being very generous. I use my paint to apply the first layer. I leave the paint wet and shake the cinnamon on, but the second layer in the back I actually do glue, because these little wooden cutouts from the Dollar Tree have like sparkles on the back of them, or designs that require a thicker layer of cinnamon to cover. I'm using pine now. I got from Amazon. This is 50 for $15.99, and the little delicate one there in my left hand, that is 25 pieces for $9.99. So these are cheaper than the Dollar Tree per pick. Even if you add 3 of them together, they still come in the same. So much better quality pine. And of course I have to buy ahead of time because I start crafting ahead of time before Dollar Tree brings out their pine. I also got the berries on Amazon. Same thing, very comparable to the Dollar Tree, same price or less. These are some little faux candy They're like wooden beads that were painted to look like Christmas candy from Temu. Very cheap. I think there was a package of 25 for about $2. And I'm showing you here if you want it to look like rust more, to take your finger and rub some off, because it definitely gives more of a natural look to it, since rust doesn't usually go completely solid and thick. You know, it has like areas that are heavier and lighter. Just adds a little bit of a nice texture. And I'm just gluing all of these on top of those little stained stakes that I made. Now I decide I want a curly cube in there of wire. I don't know why, I just thought that would be fun. So I'm showing you, I'm taking the Dollar Tree black wire, wrapping it around a paint brush, the end of a paintbrush, and I'm wrapping it around the skewer, and then that's it, just for decor. I think it looks so cute and happy that way. And I'm gonna add a snowflake as well and some pine lower. Now to get this pine to look more authentic, you'll see me bending it later in the video. If you want your pine to look like it's actually there, oh, there I am, I'm starting to bend. You can't leave them completely straight and erect like that, because it will look artificial and silly. You definitely kind of have to bend them and make them look more like a natural plant when you're all done with this display. And this is definitely a Pinterest inspired craft. Somewhere on Pinterest about 3 years ago, I saw a vintage Santa coffee can, I think, and it had a little candle inside. And I thought, oh, how cute, I'm going to make one. I'm doing it, you know, my way. It looks different, but it's a great idea. I love it. So I just took one of the Dollar Tree electric candles, painted it, covered it with cinnamon again, and put it inside the front there. And now I'm taking some cardstock. Last minute, I decided to do a gift tag for this, like an antique gift tag. So I'm just rubbing it and grinding it into the cinnamon to get it a little bit tinted. And then I'm going to take the nutmeg color with the sponge and further distress it so it looks nice and old and vintage. And then we'll be writing the word believe on it as well. I don't show it, but you will see in the final reveal, there is a little pine cone to the right of that candle that I end up adding in because, again, it just felt like it was missing something. This is so much fun. You just basically put all these little fun little ornamental things inside this bucket, and this definitely comes in as almost a free DIY. If you use a coffee can, if you use dried plants that you find outside and save over the year, like grass, pine cones, even berries. You know, you have to be careful. Some berries are poisonous though if you have pets or children, but totally fun, so beautiful, very vintage. And here I go with some baker's twine. Like I said, I just put that underneath the little candies. They just look like they were a bead sitting on top of a stick, so they looked a little bit weird. So they definitely needed the bow, but this is an absolutely stunning craft. And I do end up sealing it with a clear varnish when it's all done. For this project, you're going to need 3 Dollar Tree tiles and a snowman form. You could also do this out of cardboard if you wanted to, because we are covering it with the tiles, so it doesn't really matter. But I saw this on Pinterest again. It was like an abstract snowman, and I thought it was just another fun thing to do with the tiles, and it definitely ties in that real elegant look because of the design of the tiles. So I'm being really careful here to get the pattern in the middle. I just like the center to be balanced. You don't have to do that. I just like to do that. And I traced it with a permanent marker. I did cut off the edge first because it's only sticky around the edges and it makes it a lot easier to trace once you do that. Now I'm taking masking tape and I'm just covering this whole form with some masking tape so that the tiles have something to stick to when I go to hot glue it down. I do have my glue gun turned on low heat because these tiles do have a tendency to warp and melt if you're using high heat glue. So I recommend you use either cold glue or low heat hot glue. I also chose to cut my circles just a little bit bigger than what I traced, just in case I needed to make some adjustments afterwards. Now here's where it gets fun, because you can take and reshape the little hat. I thought the hat that the Dollar Tree form has is a little bit too square and harsh, so I chose to make kind of a funner, more playful hat shape for the top of his head right there, and I'm still keeping that pattern in the middle there the best I can, and then I just eyed the rim of the hat. Next, I'm taking some Apple Barrel acrylic white paint, and I'm going to give this guy one coat of white paint. I chose to glue the hat piece down after I painted his head. I don't know why, it was just going to bother me if I thought his whole head wasn't painted, so you can always glue it on all at the same time. And I'm painting it black, and you'll see me use a Dollar Tree cutting mat that I slide underneath the rim of the hat to protect the snowman's face from getting black paint on it. There I go, right there. That makes a nice little protective thing. You could also use a piece of foil if you don't have the Dollar Tree cutting mat. So what I discovered with this little guy is that his neck is way too thin. Look at that. It's a skinny little neck, and snowmen usually have thicker necks. So what I did to compensate for that is I grabbed some buffalo check ribbon that was wired, and I just wrapped it around and around till I got more bulk in his neck, and I glue it in the back. And then now we're going to have a nice thick neck, and the ribbon matches the material enough where you won't notice it. It's complementary, see? It works really, really well, and his neck looks better. So I'm tacking the scarf down with a little bit of glue to hold it in place where I want it to be, and then I'm going to put little slits on the end of each of these pieces of his scarf there, and then I'm going to tack it in the neck. Tacking is where you just put a little bit of glue to hold it in place. I'm even going to make the scarf look like it's blowing in the wind. See how I'm ruffling it? And you just put glue down in little sections there to make it look like he's blowing, so it looks more 3D and realistic. And this is some ticking stripe material I have left over. Save your scraps, you guys. This is what they come in handy for. And I made a bow just to add some more color, and I'm gluing it in the center of his scarf. And then I'm going to go and glue some more buffalo check ribbon around the top of his hat so that it all ties into a theme. This is a leftover bow that I tore off of the Valentine's Day tag that I used for the Christmas stocking DIY in last week's video. I save my bows from Dollar Tree if they're decent and they look cute in case I want to use them, and I thought this tied in perfectly with the ticking stripe material fabric bow that I put on him on his neck. And you saw me tack down the corner of that material as well. I don't know if you missed that, but I did. And I'm adding some pine in here just for some embellishment. We're going to go ahead and add pine in his scarf, add pine in at the top, add a red berry for a pop of color, and some of those little bells. I add 3 of them on the bottom. Just get this guy festive for Christmas here. I take some white paint and I end up frosting up the bells. I end up frosting up the berry, and then I go ahead and add a little bit of frost on the top of his hat. And if you've been keeping up with all of the little episodes in this Christmas series this year, I have been using these little red peppermint candies from Temu a lot as embellishment. So just to keep it in a theme so everything kind of comes together, I'm going to glue one in the center of his bow, and it also adds a really nice sense of playfulness. Last, I'm going to add a tie just so we can hang him up, and we're all done. And of course, I think he is so cute. For this next project, I'm using the really strong chalk paint again, and I am using 3 jars that were originally tiki masala sauce from Aldi's. If you want to do the exact same jar, but any jar will work for this. You can use a mason jar, an old spaghetti sauce jar, any jar. And so you have to find your right fittings for that as well. It ended up being the Dollar Tree glass that I traced on the cardboard here because that's going to work well for this size jar. But I am making 3 rims that are going to be the rims of little snowman hats. So I'm using the lid from the jar to get the center measurement, And then I'm using a craft knife from the Dollar Tree to cut all of those out. Next, I doubled up on cardstock. You could use poster board. I just didn't have any poster board. So I glued 2 pieces of cardstock together so it's the same thickness. And I traced 3 even strips that are going to be, that was the width that I needed. It's the top, I'm showing you in case you use the same jar. This is a top of a spray paint bottle, and that ended up being the perfect size for the top of the hat to fit the rim. And I went ahead and stuck the cardstock down inside the masking tape ring there and went around with my pencil to get a nice even line, kind of like I did with the bells. Just for those of you that have been watching my videos, this is episode 4. In the very second video, I do some bells and I show you how I get an even cut on those. I did the same thing with the hat and I used the tape instead. So we're just getting the top little part of the hat here, and we're going to cover all of those with some fabric, and the top of the hat as well with some fabric. And I'm using a glue stick to apply all of the fabric. It works fine. And then I use hot glue to pull it around the edges. This fabric came from Temu. I believe it was 16 8x8 squares, and it was not over $3. I believe it was like $2.50. So I only buy from Temu if it's the same price as Dollar Tree or Dollar General or comparable, and they just had super cute prints. So I thought but you can use scrap fabric for this. This is another DIY that can definitely come in as a free DIY. You can use scrap fabric to cover these little hats here. Anything you can find around the home, it would work just fine. And to cover the edges of the cardboard, I decide on the baker's twine. I add a very, very thin strip of glue and go really slow. But I did this so I could cover it because the baker's twine isn't as hairy as the regular twine, so I thought that would be more disguised when I painted black. But looking back, it would have looked cute, I think, if I had just painted it black and then added the baker's twine, so there was a little red rim. So that's another option for you, but I decided to go with all black. And now I'm using some twine ribbon here, or actually it's burlap ribbon that I got from Temu. Again, I think it was like 15 yards for $2 or something, or $3. Very, very inexpensive. And I'm gluing the top of the hat on top of the rim. You don't have to glue it down like this. I didn't want these hats to come off. I want this to be permanent, but you could certainly just make the hat separate so that it's removable, and then you could use this or these jars as little storage jars for Christmas candy, or give them as gifts so that people can put something cute inside them. But I end up adding some ribbon from the Dollar Tree. I just used the black and white gingham print and the red and black gingham print ribbon from the Dollar Tree. And now to make the face, I use these little wooden ovals that I had laying around to make the eyes. I usually have to have some kind of template or the eyes get all weird looking. And then I just take a permanent marker and I improvise a little bit to make the eyes not identical. I don't want these to be cookie cutter. I just want them to be super, super similar. Here I take the end of a sponge brush, the wooden part, and I put that sticky little felt sticky pad that's on the back of the Dollar Tree tiny wood cutouts. I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about. They're meant to stick, I think, on gift tags. I took that off and stuck it on there, and it made cute little circles for his mouth. And now I'm taking a thin permanent marker and adding some eyelashes and eyebrows. Next, I'm going to take these little tiny bells that I got from Temu. I thought they were bigger. This was actually an accidental purchase here, but it turns out they make great berries, like little faux berries or just accents to berries. Super, super cute for small crafts, so I went ahead and kept them. And I glued one berry on top with some pine and 2 of those little bells. And now I'm taking some of the Dollar Tree buttons. Here's another little trick you can do. I put them inside duct tape, the little cardboard round circles, so I can blow dry them without them flying out all over the place on the table. It's a great little trick. Just added that in there in case some of you don't know that. It helps me. And I frosted the edge of the buttons and the top of their little hats. I don't know if I would frost the hats again, but I wanted them to look like they were cold and snowy. You can skip that part. And after I put the buttons on, I decide we need some more Christmas colors and that the buttons will look cuter with 2 tones, so I do green in the center of each button. But these little guys came up so cute. Snowmen are always so cheerful. They always make me feel so happy. If you enjoyed today's video and had fun, don't forget to give me a big thumbs up. It really does help me here on YouTube. And as always, until the next video, breathe deep, fret not, and do things that make you happy.